Welcome to Resilient Love Podcast.
Join hosts Quentin and Brianna as they discuss tips on love, life, and
business.
Let's get into this next episode. Hey everybody.
Hey everybody.
We're back with another Resilient Love episode. How y'all doing?
We hope you're doing good. We're doing great.
Yes, so we're really excited today because we're actually doing a series really of just getting to know different people, the things that they've experienced. We're switching it up this season, wanting to really make connections and get to know people at the core and begin to take those life experiences and provide you all with even more tips to really truly have a successful life. So I'm really excited. We're bringing on a special guest. And so I want you guys to meet him right now, Mr. Frederick. Let's see. Hi, Mr. Frederick.
Hey, yo, how y'all doing?
Good.
We want you to go ahead and take this moment to just share with our listeners who you are, what you're about.
Cool. Okay. So, well, first and foremost, my name is Frederick Beatty. I am an author. I'm a blogger. I am also an inadvertent domestic violence advocate. I'm also kind of sort of a social justice commentator. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. Served 3 years in the Navy.
Thank you for your service.
No problem. Thank you for your support. And honestly speaking, I just really, and also I'm a radio show host. So honestly speaking, the things that I do, I just want to bring awareness to a lot to not only just domestic violence, but social justice, but also just talk about issues that affect us, not only in the Black community, but also in other communities as well, because all problems are not always the Black community's problems. It's everyone's problem.
Yes. So true. You jumping out the gate with some stuff. It's everybody's problem. Like, we have to stop making it a Black or white issue. It's all of our issue. We're supposed to be community, family. Yes.
Indeed.
Well, that is awesome. Yes. I'm just on cloud 9. I'm about to be on cloud 10 with the conversation. So we're going to get into it. Mr. Frederick, we want you to share with our listeners about violence, mental and emotional effects of that. And we had a conversation, and you shared with us that you went through abuse. You yourself had a moment. And so most people think about domestic violence from a woman's perspective. And I am just very eager, as you can hear in my voice, to get the male perspective, because I and my husband, as a Black man, what emotional conversations, digging deep, what do you feel? Why did you go through that? Men don't share that. And so we're going to just let you flow. What was going on during that time?
Well, I can tell you and again, I've been through both sides of that. I've been the abuser, I've been the abused. From the abuser standpoint, it's the flood of emotions that went through me as I'm being walked out of the home that I was living in at the time, to being put in the back of a police car, to talking to an officer about what happened, and tearfully going through that confession, and then understanding the reality of what happened, and also really the consequences of the action that I took. It really sat home for me, and I was really in a space to where I just couldn't believe it was it was happening. And for a while there, my emotions went kind of numb, because again, I was in this space to where I couldn't believe it was happening. But it came to a point to where I had to realize that, well, this happened, and now you have to take the consequences of it. You know,
Mhm.
at the end of the whole thing, I would, end up being extremely remorseful for what I did. And just to kind of give a brief overview of that, I was dating an individual. We got into an argument. That argument turned violent. It ended up being the young lady that I was dating ended up being hurt. She had a nice long gash along her finger, along her hand, from here to here, and me realizing what happened, stammering through an apology, things like that hit home. And
Yeah.
then going through the part of being abused, you think that it can't happen to you. You think that it won't
Mhm.
happen to you. And then when it does happen to you, you're in this, and I can only speak from my own experience, you're in this extremely weird space to where you're like, what the hell's going on? Why is this going on? And how the hell did I get myself involved in this? Or even how did I allow this to happen?
Right.
And you look at it in, again, like you mentioned before, this doesn't happen to men. Men don't, we as men, especially black men, we don't talk about this.
Right.
We don't
Exactly.
talk about it at all. And for me, I felt like I was just one of those in that statistic again that won't talk about it. But I won't say what I'll say unfortunately, the Most High had a different plan for that.
Mhm.
So I did speak my story from both ends of the spectrum. But the mental aspects of it were I would say were devastating, because that road to recovery was difficult.
Right. That road. Like, really, when you say that you were abused, at what age was that?
This was in my early 20s. I was actually dating a woman who was emotionally, mentally, and then at times physically abusing me.
Oh my
So
goodness.
this was
Yeah.
in my like early to late 20s.
Mm.
So typically we don't never hear that. That's just it's a stereotype that it never happens to men.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then I looked at it from the standpoint as one instance stigmatized me, which is
Mm.
the abuser part. The other incident, which is being the abused, actually ostracized me, because
Yes. Mm-hmm.
now you deal with these strong emotions, and now you have to find a way to kind of channel those emotions, because now it's like, because for a long time I was at a really, really dark place.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really want to be bothered with anybody. Suffered through depression. Suppression was a constant friend of mine all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I limited my relationships I limited my relationships with people, but with women in general, I limited my relationships to just sexual encounters, because I didn't want the emotional or mental things associated with it. Because
Mm-hmm.
the moment I put myself in an emotional situation, all of a sudden I was afraid that person may cry wolf, or that person may say, well, he hurt me. And then we go right back down this rabbit hole again. And it took me a very long time to climb out of that bear pit.
Yep.
As many times I fell back down into the bear pit, I had to keep clawing my way back. And again, just it was an extremely emotional situation. I mean, there would be days that I would just cry uncontrollably for days at a time. Um,
Yeah.
and my work performance suffered because of that. I mean, I lost a couple of good jobs, and as a result of that, because of the way my mental state was at that time. And I can personally say this: at that time, during that period, I know my mental state was very unstable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the I took more risk
Yeah,
than I would
at that
than I would
time,
have normally
right.
that I would have normally done, that I would have normally taken, things that I normally would have been like, yeah, that I'm normally cautious about, you know. And like I said, my relationship with women was more or less in a sexual nature, and I made a habit of expressing that up front, which really just drew away a lot of people that would have wanted that really had wanted to support me or be around for me. I really kind of isolated myself from people because
Mhm.
I thought that everybody at that point had it in for me, and come to
Yeah,
realize that wasn't the case. But so I really just kind of made myself a recluse, and I I know I think it it put me in this very dark spot, and it took a very long time for me to climb out of that. And even when I climbed out of it, I still felt like I was in this weird space because I was wondering if I had to look over my shoulder every now
mm-hmm.
and again because I didn't want, because and I was very, and even when I came out of it, I was very cautious in how I approached women because I didn't want to, you know, be that person that was overly aggressive and things of that nature. And even when talking with, with family, talking with a therapist, um, even now I still continue to talk with a therapist. Um,
Okay, I was gonna ask, like, how is it? How has the transition into the recovery? Because, like you said, the road to recovery from being abused, being the abuser, having that emotional trauma attached, and then, as you said, the relationships were basically on a here we are, now I'm leaving, no real connection here type
mhm.
thing. So yeah, dig into that a little bit. Like going to therapy, how has that been?
It's been really, I'll say it's been very cathartic for me. It also helps that I actually write.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
it's, but again, and then it really helped me look a lot deeper into who I am, and also look a lot deeper into a lot of the things that could have possibly triggered it. Um,
Okay.
I've for the longest of time since I've been a teenager, I've had issues with, I've had anger issues, um, and those stemmed from a lot of the things that I experienced, with my mother and my father. You know, when I was talking to them and then getting absolution from that, really pulled those things down, pulled that anger down. But then there's still anger issues with, there were still issues with my own self, of failing myself as a father, failing my kids as a father, failing myself as as a person, and things of that nature. And then also taking, I took, even through the healing process, you take setbacks, you get hit with things that are unexpected. Um,
Mm-hmm.
losing a child, my oldest child, to a police involved shooting was something that kind of really just pushed me back like ages. So all the improvement that I made from,
And
and
then,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
again, all the improvement I made in this, and like I said, all this stuff happened in 1990. All the domestic violence stuff happened in 1997. So between the years of 1997 and 1998. So it's been a very long time. So
right.
it's been over 15, 20 years. But but then now being an inadvertent advocate of it, and to talk about it still, it still brings about those strong emotions. And even like I said, that setback that I took when I lost my son, really kind of threw me kind of in that weird space again. And I had to ask
Yeah.
myself, am I going to throw away all this improvement, all this progress that I made, or am I just going to continue to keep going? So I had to tell
Mm-hmm.
myself, I just had to sit myself down for a moment and just let me process all this. Let me
Right.
let me put all this in some semblance of a perspective, and then make sense of it. Because
Mm-hmm.
now I was looking at the pieces of a puzzle. Okay, does this piece fit here? This piece fit there? And for a while, that's what I was doing, just putting the puzzle back together, because now you have the emotional and mental trauma of being abused, and now you have the emotional and mental trauma of loss. And after a while, when those things pile up on you, they become a heavy burden.
Yes.
And sometimes that burden sometimes it's too much to bear. And and this is me being extremely transparent with you guys. So all that happened, even though the domestic violence incident happened in like 15, 20 years ago, the loss of my child is still something that's still fresh.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff came to a head in 2018. So I actually did make an attempt to take my life at that time. Thank God it didn't work, and thank God I'm real bad at planning stuff.
Oh Lord.
Thank God it didn't work. I'm real bad at planning stuff, because it didn't work, and I'm here today because of that.
Yes,
because
you're here today to tell us how you made it over, and that is the power behind this message today. That despite the pressures of life, you prevailed.
Indeed.
And you continue to prevail, and it's just a test. I think all of our stories work together for the greater good. And I'll jump right into the next question. It's kind of going into the next question a little bit, but just to build off that, the next question is, now that we understand more about what you have experienced in your life and how those traumas have impacted on relationships, can we talk more about family relationships? What does family mean to you?
Oh man.
It's a pack. It's a loaded question now.
I know. And I'm definitely not going to give you the standard answer, because the standard answer would really just would pale in comparison to what I really feel. Mm-hmm. I mean, anybody can say that family is everything to them. They can say that, but can they say that with conviction? Can they say that with all honesty? And can they say that with truly saying when you truly say that, it actually has a meaning behind it? I know I can say that with all three of those, because my family on either side have been extremely supportive of what I've been doing thus far. A lot of them don't know about the abuse and the abuser part of it. They don't know about the suicide attempt and things of that nature, but they're extremely supportive in the things that I do. And I keep that part of it to myself. And well, I'll take that back. I revealed that to certain people in my family that I know I can really entrust in that. My mother and my younger brother and my younger brother and my mother have been extremely supportive and extremely helpful, especially now during this particular time of transition, because now I'm actually going through a divorce, and they've been extremely helpful during this time of transition, because they've offered they've offered their home, and they offered their hearts to me, and they listen to me without judgment.
That's right.
And that's extremely important to me. They give me unadulterated, uncensored, uncut advice, and sometimes that advice hurts, but at the same time, it's something that I need to hear. So for me, family means so much to me, especially in this day, especially now in this day and age that we're experiencing. The relationships that I have with people outside of that also mean something to me, because these are relationships that were forged during adversity, and they were forged in the fire.
Yes.
And the friendship that I have with a couple of really good friends of mine are strong friendships that endure even to this day. And one of my good friends knows every aspect about me, everything that I've been through, everything that I've experienced. And they still rock with me without judgment.
That's family. They done moved up the chain. They family.
Oh yeah. Oh, they in family status now. I mean, it's important. When someone rocks with you without judgment, it means a lot. And
it does.
I'm getting misty eyed right now is when I think about it, because this person could have walked away when they heard all of that.
Mm-hmm.
They could have walked away. They could have walked away when I told them I hurt a woman. They could have walked away when I said I attempted suicide. They could have walked away from all that. Yet they still rock with me to this day, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for the connection, and it means a lot to me to do everything in my power to preserve it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And shout out to that person, because this is an awesome man we're talking with, Mr. Frederick, and he's dropping some gems to let you all know, like, life happens and it can get rough, but when you have community, when you have love, and when you are able to just lean, like that song, Lean on Me, lean on me. When you can lean on somebody when you're not strong, that really helps. Like the song say, it helps you to carry on, because
Indeed.
I couldn't carry myself for that season, but having you with me to carry me through, Lord, I ain't trying to preach.
And the simple fact that you express that there is really no cookie cutter answer, but you have to just flow through your own process, and it's gonna look way different than somebody else's.
Yes.
But you, in that process, like I have an uncle, great uncle, he always says you have to grow through life and not just go through. It's impossible.
But you know what? But your uncle said. But what your uncle says has so much truth in it, because you do have to grow through life, because there are no cookie cutter answers to anything that you experience or anything that you go through. It's just a learning experience. You learned a lesson. To me, life is about lessons. Life is about lessons, small ones, large ones, intermediate ones, very very minute ones. Everything in life is about a lesson. The trick is are you going to learn the lesson to move forward, or are you not going to learn the lesson and stay stuck in where you are?
Now that's true. Because when you get exposed to the answer, let me say it like that. When you get the answer to the key to the next door, or the answer to the question, you no longer can walk in a level of ignorance. You no longer can walk in a level of, I don't know how to approach this, because when you get tested, you then become an expert in your own situation. I can be a professor of my trauma. My trauma has been my teacher, and now I can teach you a lesson. So right. Yeah. So with that, family, community, it brings us to that deeper, more recent situation of gun violence. It brings us to this level of, what do we do to bring back that, to stop the violence? I mean, in short, to just stop the violence. But violence does come in situations, and a lot of times people try to put black on black crime, or it's only in the African American community, but we know that it's violence everywhere. As we said earlier, it's about all of us. It's all of our problem. So when you experienced that situation with your son, like, walk us through that. What is your next steps now since that has occurred?
Well, I'll answer. Well, you know what? I'll start at the beginning. So let's see. And I'm gonna preface this with this particular thing. So July 4th and July 12th, which is my actual birthday, are 2 days that I actually dread now.
Mm.
I dread those. I've been dreading those days for the last 5 years. The reason because of that is because on July 4th, I received a phone call from my son's grandmother informing me that he was shot and killed by a police officer. Now, normally I'm a pretty calm individual.
Yeah.
Now, and the funny part about it, I won't say the funny part, but the funny part about this is I received this call in a Walmart, and I'm actually holding a box that has a barbecue grill in it, and I dropped the barbecue grill. So for the better part of, I'm gonna say maybe 45 seconds to probably a minute, everything that I knew, my whole world just stopped and just went to a crawl.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is moving in slow motion around me, and there's so many thoughts running around in my head. All of a sudden, I snap back into reality, and I'm like, did I just hear what I just heard? Hold on, repeat, say that again. Repeat that, please.
Right.
And then she said it again, and I brought an immediate, I won't say finality to it, but I was like, well, this can't be true. This can't be happening. And on instinct, because I was shopping for stuff for 4th of July, I went ahead and finished my shopping. But when I got in my vehicle to go back home, now the Walmart where I lived, now I lived in Florida at the time. I'm in Georgia. Now the Walmart that I was at in Florida was like 5 minutes from my house. So it was literally less than a 2.5 mile drive. It took me 30 minutes to get back to the house because my hands and my body was shaking so uncontrollably. Fast forward maybe about 2 weeks later. 8 days later. I'm in Virginia. I'm in Newport News, Virginia. We go to his wake, which was July 12th.
Your birthday.
That was the last time that I physically saw my child, my son. It was a very surreal and rather, I won't say unnerving, but it was a very surreal experience. To see his lifeless body right there, and to know that I could never physically say anything to him or never physically touch or see him in that instance again. The following day, there was a homegoing service. Later that day, they finally committed his body to the ground or back to the earth, and that is when the finality of everything hit me. To know that he is no longer ever able to be physically present on this plane with me, with his mother, with his cousins, with his aunties, with his uncles. They hit like a ton of bricks. Yeah. Actually, I take that back. I literally felt like I got like Mike Tyson literally hit me with an uppercut. And everybody knows how devastating those can be.
Yeah, Mike Tyson, he's strong.
So I literally felt like I got hit with one of those uppercuts from Mike Tyson, and it literally just put me in this ugly, this really weird and uncomfortable space for a very long time. And again, suffered, depression has always been one of those demons that I necessarily can't, that you don't necessarily shake. You get rid of it for a moment, but you don't shake it. But now, even in the wake of, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Atiana Jefferson, Rayshard Brooks, Drayshawn Reed, and countless others, now I'm introduced to something called anxiety. And now I'm also introduced to something that's called PTSD. And both of these guys are constant companions now. And I'm like, why is this happening? Why am I going through all this? Why the hell is this happening? And every time that I saw, especially what happened to George Floyd, that was hard to watch.
Yes, sir.
And it shot my anxiety through the roof. I think my anxiety was on 1 million that day. And I was like, this is crazy. And again, like, PTSD is a constant friend of mine now, because now it's just like you kind of walk through life, and you kind of walk through the life that you have now, and you just wonder, like, am I gonna be the next person that's gonna get it? Or am I gonna get another phone call from a family member saying that they're not here, not only because of police violence, but just because of violence, period.
Yeah.
And that's something I just really don't want. But I mean, if it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. It's just I think I know how to kind of deal with it better, but moving forward. But at the same time, it's just something that you don't prepare yourself for. You don't prepare yourself for losing somebody. You don't prepare yourself for how to deal with that. And even to this day, there's still more questions than there are answers.
Thanks so much for listening to Resilient Love Podcast. We wanted to take this opportunity to also let you know that you can help us by committing to a monthly fee of 99 cents, $2.99, or $9.99. Those contributions help us to keep this movement of resilient love going. Blessings to all listeners and subscribers. Thank you all.
It settled for about $6,700, which is the amount of the average
resilient love. Wow.
Oh. So try wrapping your head around that, and then understand. Then also, during the interim of all this, there's a little girl involved now. A 5-year-old little girl. That's my granddaughter. Someone that will never know who her father is. She'll know him through pictures and through videos, but she won't be able to physically see him, physically hold him, physically be able to tell him that she loves him, and him returning. I look at her, and there's so much that I want to shield her from.
Right.
There's so much I want to not expose her to. And I try to do whatever it is in my power to try to help her with that. Now, to answer the other question about, gun violence and things of that nature, I actually live in a house with gun owners.
Okay.
I am one myself. It goes to, I think, to curb things like that. It goes to responsible ownership of a weapon.
Yeah.
Understanding that weapon can be a lethal weapon when used in the manner it's supposed to be used in. Understanding that you have to be cognizant of what you have in your hands, because it's a powerful thing, and it can be used to either injure, or it can be used to harm someone, or it can be used to take somebody's life. And you have to understand that once you pull the trigger, that's it. And I'm former military, so for me, I had to learn safety with guns at a way early age. I went to the military at 18 years old, so I was exposed to guns I was exposed to guns at between 18 and 19 years old, and had continually been exposed to those as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn how to properly handle a weapon. You learn how to properly store a weapon. You learn how to properly, take care of that weapon and things of that nature. But you also learn how to be safe with it. You also learn how to be sensible with it.
Exactly.
You learn the situations to where you can wield it, and also when to not wield it. You know, there are laws in every state for a reason. You know, concealed carry laws, open carry laws. Um, there are provisions for when you're able to employ a weapon in a concealed carry situation, or even in an open carry situation.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's perception of that is different. Um, you know, to me, a gun should always be used as a last resort.
Exactly. I agree.
To Should always be used as a last resort, because if you can't resolve an issue by talking to somebody, or trying to talk the situation down to where it de-escalates. If you can talk the person down to where it de-escalates, then mission accomplished. If that
Mm-hmm.
person still wants to escalate, just because you have a gun in just because you have a gun on your waist, doesn't necessarily give you carte blanche to just pull it out, because there are certain provisions and situations to where that is done.
Right. And see, my husband, he used to be in law enforcement, so he was at the sheriff's office.
Well, over 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
I had to draw, but I never had to actually use anything. And for me, I guess I just grew up in an old school environment, old school family. We gonna tussle it out, and then we might hug after.
See,
So
I guess. See, you know what? Is that exactly. If hey, you got a problem, man, let's go out here to this front yard and just and box. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
because,
whoever get knocked down, but we're gonna show love afterwards.
and the way I saw, a lot of those individuals, like we bumping each other, we laugh now. You know, you made me work, you made me run. So using a weapon to me is too easy.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's like I was way out.
so it's just the thought process behind it, like you said. It's gotta, but if you haven't been trained that way, you haven't been raised that way, it's different. We're in a different space now.
It
But
is. It is.
oh,
And the one thing that I've tried, that I've reached out to, especially when it came to law enforcement, I've talked to a couple of. I've had conversations with sheriff's departments in the state of Florida, um, just having conversations about, you know, de-escalation tactics, um, proper, I won't say proper use of force, because use of force is different in everybody's eyes, but
Yeah.
it has to be looked at in the legality of it. What is the legal What is the legal definition for use of force? We have to look at it in that instance. If someone isn't presenting a danger to you, and they're not being aggressive or violent in any case of form, and they're just, they're, I won't say peacefully surrendering, but if they don't present themselves as a threat, then you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
shouldn't employ a deadly weapon. I mean, I can understand a taser, yeah,
Yeah.
but
mhm.
Yeah.
employing something such as a gun or a rifle in those instances, I can't see the justification behind that. If Even if the person looks like they're going to make a move towards something, I mean, you warn them, but you employ the taser first. You don't outright shoot somebody. I mean, to me, an imminent threat is somebody charging at me with a lethal weapon, or somebody readying a gun or a rifle at me with the intent, with the clear intent to shoot.
Correct. Exactly.
Mhm.
that's me. And I mean, and like I said, your history of law enforcement. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've taught you guys rules of engagement, or how to effectively employ rules of engagement. I
Right.
mean, that's something we were taught in the military all the time. I mean, now I served in the Navy, so I wasn't in an actual theater of combat, though I did serve during Desert Shield, Desert Storm. My experience was mostly in close. My experience was mostly in close protection.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a stint as a close protection agent. So rules of engagement are different. Only
Exactly.
return fire if fired upon, or even if being fired upon, assess the situation first and see if you can leave the situation without causing gunshots. But there's some instances where you have to engage.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you only drew down on one person, but you never opened fire on anybody, which shows a considerable amount of restraint.
Yeah, he was in there for 5 years.
But it's just that, and it's a lot of people I work with, and it's like everybody does not have some people want to get in this field just to say, hey, there's some when we really break down and assess, that's a whole nother podcast. But when we really assess, when you take that shield off, when you not protected with that umbrella, what's really going on in here? Because you find a lot of issues that
behind the shield.
Yeah, and a lot of these tests are not really designed to hit those pressure points to find out, is this person capable of protecting and serving?
Period. Mm-hmm.
Indeed. And it goes right back to the community part of it, because again, responsible gun ownership is literally just that.
Mm-hmm.
You you teach people how to properly handle, how to properly store, how to properly use a firearm. And if you're gonna have that thing around, have something like that around a child, especially a young child, because I mean, I've seen news reports of young kids playing, taking their parents' gun, and actually the gun goes off and they end up shooting themselves with that. So
Mm-hmm.
it does go to being responsible with it. If you're gonna have a gun in the house with young children, put it somewhere to where they can't have access to it. If you have a gun safe, put it in a safe. I highly suggest one with a biometric lock.
Yeah.
Your biometric signature. And and if you're gonna have it around kids, I mean, at least show, teach them that this is the reason why you have it. And also, if you're you can also empower a child to be a responsible gun owner or a responsible person that uses a gun. So I don't see an issue in teaching a child how to use a firearm. Some people take issue to that. I don't. Hell, I was taught as a kid to use a bow and arrow from my dad at a young age. So, I mean,
and I think we miss those simple old, traditions. Like, back in the day, people were using axes. Little kids were cutting down the wood themselves. I mean, you were running down the bull. I mean, not the bull, but the buffalo, or I mean, it was some real hands-on work,
right,
with tools and devices that typically today we're like, no, Johnny shouldn't do that, Sally shouldn't do that, but she will.
Think about it. But think about it though. And this is something I want to just kind of bring to you guys' attention. This is something, and it's about a very good stark contrast.
Mm-hmm.
You see white families showing their kids how to use rifles and guns and crossbows and compound bows. Just showing these kids how to hunt, how to do things like that. We don't, us as black parents, we don't show our kids how to do those things, how to hunt, how to survive, how to be self-sustainable. Mm-hmm. So when something does happen, they can go out here. They can take a hunting rifle. They can take a bow and arrow. They can take a crossbow. They can take a hunting knife and they can go out and sustain for themselves. We don't teach our kids that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
And I think
true.
I think it's those skills are important.
Self-sufficiency is lacking in the Black community.
Yeah.
Whether it is surviving in the wild or being able to take care of your house, self-sufficiency is lacking. So that's a very good point.
Yeah. Oh, but and overall, we appreciate you sharing your story. What are your next steps in life, and where can our listeners follow you? Can you provide 3 tips, one for life, one for business, and one for relationships? I know we got some loaded questions. I'm sorry.
You know what the funny part about it is? I love loaded questions. I really do. I'm probably one of the few people that love loaded questions. So to answer the first part of that, first of all, I appreciate you guys having me, man. I'm honored to be here. Next steps for me. Well, gonna come. First of all, I'm gonna continue to try to go on this journey of self discovery and self healing. Um, being able to tap and being able to learn how to tap into my inner self and just learn more about who I am. Secondly, is just continue to work the vision of my podcast and continue to bring on people who can be change agents for domestic violence, social change, although and everything else that entails. Um, the other thing is just continue writing. Um, to have 4 published works out there, two books that I've written, and excuse me, 2 that I've co-written. That means a lot to me, and I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna continue writing. And let's see, words for life, words for business, and words for relationships. I'm gonna start with the last one first. I'm gonna start with relationships first because that is kind of the crux of the journey for me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Successful relationships at the core, begin with you at the core of it. If
Mm-hmm.
you understand who you are as an individual, you'll be better able to understand the person that you're trying to build a relationship with. And this is whether it's a friendship, a marriage, a long-term relationship with someone, or even a business relationship.
I
And let's
like that.
see.
Get to the core.
Tips,
Who are you?
tips for business. Mm-mm-mm. You know what? I won't say I'm gonna go old school, but I'm gonna go with something that a good friend of mine taught me or spoke to me about when, and this is way before I even thought about doing podcasts or writing or anything like that. Businesses start with a vision. If that vision is clear, then build it. If that vision is not clear, do everything that you can to make it clear and then build it. And words of advice for life. Geez, I could probably wax philosophical with that pretty much all day. But for me, and I think everybody can literally apply this to their own life. You know, life is never about the destination. It's about the journey to get to the destination. The destination is already been predetermined and pre-planned. It's
That's
up to
true.
us to determine. It's up to us to determine how we get there. Do you are you gonna slip? Are you gonna take setbacks along the way? Of course you are. Are you going to be derailed or go off course? Of course you are. Are people gonna jump on your vehicle and just ride with you for a little ways? Of course they are. That's all that entails a journey. But as long as you take the journey, that is what's important. You know, the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said best, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. The question is, are you willing to take that first step?
Listeners, I hope you are willing to take that first step, because Mr. Frederick really gave us an overview of how when life throws you lemons, you can make lemonade. It's just you got to add a lot of sugar.
Or don't add sugar.
Or just drink it. Yep. But I really appreciate this conversation. Yes. It has been impactful and empowering, and definitely encouraging to know that you are still yet growing and still yet flourishing and continuing to be an advocate. And we're right here supporting you. So you all make sure you follow Mr. Fredericks. We have his information in our bio in the description box. And we're going to see you guys on another episode.
And can you just share your handles for us, just for
Oh yeah. So if you guys want to follow me, you guys can follow me on Instagram at Mr_Beatty. I try to keep that strictly to the podcast. However, I do sneak a picture of myself and pictures of other things every once in a while in there. You guys can follow me on Facebook at Frederick Beatty. If anybody wants to come onto the show, or even just want to just have a conversation, you guys can hit me up. You guys can PM me and things of that nature. If anyone wants to come onto the show and just talk about anything, nothing's off limits with me. You can reach us. You can reach us at Trailblazers Radio at Trailblazers with a Z radio at gmail.com. And my personal email is authorflb@gmail.com. So if you guys, I'm open to speaking engagements, virtual meetings like this. I'm pretty much open to whatever. So if you guys want to talk to me, most definitely hit me up on those social media handles.
Yes. We've enjoyed it, guys, and we're going to catch you on another episode
of Resilient Love Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all listeners and subscribers. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Leave us a 5-star review on Apple so that we can continue sharing resilient love. Thanks for listening.